We go all night, yeah. We got that fight, yeah. Our future look nice, yeah. Our future look bright, yeah. Our future look bright, yeah.
Hey Milwaukee, so one of the biggest complaints we have with Milwaukee Live is that we just don't have enough weather, and since we're, kind of starting to, look at how, the next generation of TV and Milwaukee Live being a part of that generation, we thought, well, we have to get weather on here. So we actually dug deep. We said, who's the best weather expert in the world? And we got Mike Westendorf here from UWM's Innovative Weather Center, and we said, all right, Mike, what can we do? We need to get some weather to the people. The people need real weather. They need a guy that they can talk to. And feel free to ask questions throughout the program. We're going to get to those. But first, tell us a little bit. Innovative Weather, what the heck? I didn't even know about it until I started digging and typed in best weather expert. So tell me what's up.
I'm sure that worked. Well, this program, it's a program at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. We're one of only 3, soon to be 2, universities in Wisconsin that trains atmospheric science or meteorology students.
That sounds so cool, atmospheric
science. The problem with that, though, is that when people enter in meteorology, we don't come up. They have to enter atmospheric science. We're working on that. So you have to understand meteorology. Atmospheric science, meteorology, same thing.
Same thing. All right.
So, we've got all these young people. I graduated from UWM in '96 with my undergrad. And the reality of it, when I was going through school, I don't know what part-time jobs you had. I had Walgreens.
Yeah, I had McDonald's for part of the time, busting tables.
Yeah. So I was doing those things, and so Dr. Paul Rober, who is my boss and distinguished professor at UWM, part of his idea was, we've got all these kids who are working part-time jobs. They need to be able to have some income. Wouldn't it be great if we could create an environment in which they could have a paid internship, so that they're applying what they learn in the classroom to the real world? And so in 2007, makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Experiential learning. In 2007, we were able to talk to We Energies and the Dean of Letters and Science, Richard Meadows at the time. And they gave us okay, if you can get a couple of people to come on board and follow this crazy dream, we'll give it a shot. And that was 10 years ago. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and we've been going strong ever since. And so what we do, and it makes sense, you're going to school to become a meteorologist. It's nice to go and practice at some place.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things that really bothered me while I'm going to school is I have these skills. I'm like studying, film and art and music and all this stuff, and I'm not doing that in my job, my part-time job. I felt wasted. Even when you get out of school, sometimes you don't feel like you're utilizing it, but certainly during school.
Right.
So this is awesome.
And to be able to like you're learning about synoptics and dynamics, and then you get to go into the real world and you can see, oh, this is how this played out. Hey, I was just looking at this yesterday. Now you can go and look at the equations and the math and the science behind it. So makes a lot of sense, but they're hard to do. To our knowledge, we're the only one that goes to this length with it because it's an academic thing.
Right.
So part of our job, and there always says
it's like Freighter has academic medicine, you have academic weather. I like it. It's very innovative.
And we have not professional students, we have student professionals.
Oh,
professional students sounds bad, like you're there forever.
Right.
They have an opportunity. It's a competitive thing. Not everybody gets a chance to be able to get into it. There is a progression of levels in internship. We do a pre-internship open to anybody who's just curious, and I do that. And then out of that batch, we'll hire the interns, and they usually work behind the scenes, just learning our culture, learning how we're doing things for about 3 to 9 months, depending on how far along they are. And then as you go into the operational piece of things, you then become a paid staff member.
Oh, nice.
While you're either...
Never thought all these kids were volunteering, so that's really great that they're getting paid. That's good.
Yeah. All right, you're 21 years old. Are you getting up at 3 a.m. to volunteer?
No.
That would not be sustainable. So, and so they have an opportunity, and we're making. And I've been learning that I need to communicate this better. But we don't make just forecasts. Like a forecast is what's the high temperature going to be, and so you put a number on the dartboard and you shoot the dart and hope to get close to it. You know, it's that kind of an idea. What we do is risk assessment. Yes, we forecast high temperatures. Yes, we forecast the chance for thunderstorms, but it's the communication with our partners that is so important.
So you guys are kind of like the private weather people for these companies that rely so much on that weather?
Right. You know, weather has, you know, millions of dollars of impact. Just in the regular, you know, day-to-day staffing of things. What we're trying to do is we sit down, I'll sit down with or Paul and I will, with a prospective partner. We'll just say, tell us about when does weather make you nervous and why? And so as you listen to them tell about the story about this happening and how it impacted their staffing and how they couldn't get things, you know, in place right away. And from there, we then say, okay, we understand what their thresholds are. This is when it really bothers me. And then we start looking for the weather potential that could make those risks a reality.
Okay, so like wind energies, that makes sense because obviously ice or things will take the power lines down,
Right.
and you know obviously just bad weather or whatever, even for like heating oil, you know, not oil necessarily, but the gas and all that. What other kind of partners do you guys have?
So we're also working. We have 3 power companies that we're working for that spreads us all the way out to Iowa.
Oh wow! Okay.
And up into the UP of Michigan. We are working with the Milwaukee Brewers.
Oh wow!
We don't tell
I
them.
suppose, right?
By the way, we don't tell them to move the roof. We can't do that. So we just try to help them understand. But you have to understand that roof move. It's not just, oh, is it going to rain or not? It's not a big umbrella. They have to position that for special events. They have to deal with the temperature. Anybody who's been to Miller Park, when that roof is closed, it gets hot in there.
Yeah, that's true.
We're a little bit younger, so it's uncomfortable for us, but you're 60, 70 years old, and that starts to become a legitimate health risk.
That's true.
And so there's
and
pressure.
Drinking beer won't help with that.
No, because it dehydrates you. Yeah, exactly. And it's what everybody's doing, peanuts and beer at a ballpark.
Oh
so, you know, do we open, do we close? And yet you can't have it rain out, because if you were to get a rain out, the losses financially would be substantial, not to mention you'd be the laughing stock. You've got a roof, why didn't you just close
that's
it?
true. Right, retractable roof.
You can't close it just because there might be a few thunderstorms around the area, and yet you have to close it in time.
Oh, so
And
you
then
guys are kind of the advisors behind all that.
Summerfest, we work with them, and they've got some really great people to work with down there. So we're just working with all the festivals and all their planning just to make sure that they can make sure that the stages are safe and communicate well. We've got a couple of schools that we work with, University School, UWM Milwaukee, of course, and Lake Express is another big one.
Oh, that makes sense.
I'll have an example on what we're doing there, but
Sweet.
MMSD is another one too. All that rain.
Oh yeah,
that
with
we
all
had,
the
you know, to my knowledge, we didn't have to dump, but you know they have to manage that tunnel. It's a finite space, and people don't understand that this is how this actually works. If you get 2 inches of rainfall, it's going to go someplace.
Yeah.
And you can't capture
Speaking
it all.
of rainfall, I don't know if you guys saw. I don't know. Did you see that the rafting we did on the river?
No.
After the rainfall? Oh my gosh. Well, if you folks haven't seen that, Jenny is a producer and also my wife, and I did take our kids, and after the rain, and there was a tree that had fallen, and it got very interesting. So yeah, that was kind of a fun one. Make sure to check that out on the Milwaukee Live page, but you might want to check that out after.
I will have
anyway,
to.
Yeah, that was pretty. I
was.
don't know what I know what we were doing, but yeah, that was.
And that's what most of us
were.
when people go and do those things, we're like, oh, what are they thinking? Did they not listen? Flood advisory.
No, we went on purpose because of that. But I think maybe we need to become one of your partners for our rafting or something. Like, should we go or not? No, I'm just kind of joking. But that would work though. Theoretically, if we had a business of rafting,
yes,
we would want to be a partner with someone who could say, hey, you guys, the water levels are going to be up. You need to be aware of that, so that you could either cancel or move or whatever. So okay, cool. Well, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. So
risk assessment.
Yeah. So do you want to? Yeah, I understand you might have a couple slides or something here for us.
So what we'll do is we'll take you through a couple of examples, and we'll put it on the screen for you just to see. I'll give you a quick picture of one of the tools that we have. It's called a GR Level 2 Analyst, and so if you're wondering, oh, it's so nice. I should preface it by saying that we're not playing weather people. If you come into our office, it's a significant one. And so the tool that we'll show you here, this is one of the tools that we look at. This particular image was from Moore, Oklahoma, the day that that F4, F5 tornado went through. And so we have the National Weather Service grade tools. The image on the right, you might recall, do you remember what that's called?
You know what,
fishing
Oh my gosh.
Echo.
Yeah, echocardiogram. No, okay.
Hook echo.
Oh, hook
so
echo,
if you
okay,
knew that,
well,
just go ahead and
yeah.
and
Comment
let us
below if
know
you knew that.
if you
Also,
knew
comment
that.
below if you'd like to harass me a little bit for not knowing about that. But
Right, but the other image on this is velocity, and so that's more of the meteorologist. But we get to see wind coming towards and away from the radar site. And this next image, this particular tornado was so close to the radar site that the radar data in this program actually captured the tornado, which you can see pretty clearly.
oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a fascinating tool. You can buy it; it's like $300. But
Oh, really?
yeah, so that's just one of the tools that we're using. I mean, we've got custom tools. We have a model that Dr. Rober put together, a high resolution model that we use. We're using all the state-of-the-art model data and technology that everybody else has. We're really giving these guys some fantastic professional skill sets.
Okay, yeah, that's nice. That would be great for just about anyone who wants to have a profession, something to actually be getting going on it, because they actually experience might be in some cases more valuable than training, because you need to be able to comprehend kind of what you're doing. And I think that's probably one of the biggest flaws sometimes of education is people graduate with a degree, but they don't graduate with any experience, and they honestly don't know what they're doing when they get out. And a lot of these guys end up selling cars or bussing tables or waiting tables or bartending after college because people are like, well, you don't have any experience. I'm sorry.
Right.
Where you
And
guys
that's
are
a huge
solving that
one
problem. That's
for
great.
a lot of industries and companies. They'll say you need to have at least a bachelor's, preferably a master's, and 2 years
some
of experience.
Well,
how are you supposed to get that?
That sucks. Yeah, that is the worst thing.
We're taking care of that. And
Nice.
the other neat thing about this too is it's not just the professional skill sets. How do you make a forecast? How do you communicate it? Because we're doing radio on WUWM. We're doing stuff online. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. You can get our stuff several times a day. But it's the personal skill setting, that is so important for young adults. I mean, let's face it, they're coming out of college and they're working for people like us. Yeah. And you don't know it all.
No,
sorry, you don't.
I still don't even know it all. So
He
I know
does.
I'll stop it. No, I think he does.
But, they're looking for people who have a humility, but also a talent. They have a skill set that is something that they want to hire. And as a result, we're able to give them not only the professional, but the personal skill setting. We talk about servant leadership all the time. That Can you be humble enough to learn and yet confident enough to lead? Because I'm the only full-time person there. So when I go on vacation...
So it's like then the inmates are running the...
when the cat's away, the mice play.
I'm sure that's not the case. But
no,
we actually have a question back here of
nice.
how long do the students actually have to study before they're allowed to go ahead and run the show?
How long do they study? It varies, honestly, on a talent level, but by and large, it's upper level.
Like upperclassmen?
Upperclassmen, undergraduates. Usually, there is on occasion we'll bring in a talented sophomore who's gotten through our introductory course, but usually it's juniors to seniors. We have a lot of graduate students who are now coming, and we were able to the way that the program works, it's kind of like a basketball team. Think about a college basketball. You train them up, you play in the big tournament, they graduate, go on to the NBA, but the next group is coming in, and so you're always constantly mentoring and changing and mentoring and moving them out.
Unless you're Kentucky or one of those one and done schools, but you guys aren't that.
Meteorology does not work that way. Storm chasers maybe, but no. So they're in it, and then when they graduate, they can remain with us through what's called a limited term employment, so an LTE status. They can remain with us while they're going through the hiring process, while they're putting out their resumes.
So that way they have continuity with their. Oh, that's nice.
So they have continuity with the major, and we retain our most experienced staff through the severe weather season, which is our biggest season.
Which is the summer.
It's the summer season. Right. So we generally are able to keep the people who graduate. Those guys have been through it for over a year. They know what they're doing, and so by the time it's all said and done, there's usually about 3 to 9 months worth of training. And then they'll be with us, including that training, they'll be with us anywhere from about 1.5 years up to 3 years, depending on if they go on to graduate school, things like that.
Wow.
So
that's some good, that's pretty decent though, because obviously they have the high-tech education, but they get to put it in practice. So you feel pretty good about these guys?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah?
Because
Okay.
the other thing that they're doing too is that they're moving from somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, they're just trying to figure out how to make a forecast. Right. And now they move into leadership. Like my assistant director of operations and programming.
And that's a student?
These are just graduated students.
wow.
So
Okay.
that's how our leadership winds up working. I mean, so when I'm out of town, I was on vacation for a week. My job is to train them well enough that I can. And so when, the fire starts and things go crazy, they have a chance to be able to manage it. And the credibility that they have is, with prospective employers is significant.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. So cool. All right. Well, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop those below in the comments. What are some of the, I guess...
We actually did have another question.
Oh, awesome.
Brittany was talking about, or you said that the summer was the craziest time, and she's kind of wondering why that is. Why is our weather so moody?
Yeah, the weather's so moody. Well, because it's warmer, and warmer usually means greater instability, and greater instability means thunderstorms. The reason why summertime is so big, because most of the partners that we work with have substantial summer risks. So you think power companies, they have outage concerns far more often in the summer because of thunderstorms.
Really? I didn't know that.
Than they would necessarily for snow. Power companies don't mind snow. Ice is a huge problem.
The ice, I've heard, bringing lines down.
But snow, unless it's a wet snow, it's not the end of the world.
Okay.
But the thunderstorms, because they pop up, and they can hit over here, and then all of a sudden they hit like Hartford, and now Hartford's dark, and they got to get people up. So the summer season is more active. It's harder to predict exactly where the thunderstorms are going to be. Timing and severity, all of those things matter. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to manage their staffing, making sure that they have enough people. I mean, think about it this way, if there's a thunderstorm chance and you don't want to be out of power, because if you don't have power, you're angry and they're not making any money because the meter's not spinning. Well,
and for some elderly people, the heat could actually be deadly.
Yeah, so, exactly. So, I mean, there's real concern. So they want to get that power on as fast as they can. But if they go and put everybody on their staff on standby, they have to pay them for that. So there's overtime, there's all these, and what happens when nothing happens?
Yeah.
You just spent all your money, and let's go the other way. Now you didn't have anybody on standby and you get hit. And now the minutes of time without power goes up substantially, and customer service goes down, and health concerns start becoming a bigger deal. So they've got to find the balance of that. And summertime thunderstorms and some of those risks are harder to predict. They require more rapid communication, and that's a big part of it.
So you guys are kind of where the weather, like the rubber hits the road, so to speak. Like stuff actually matters when you guys predict things wrong, or not necessarily predict, but your forecast. So this is pretty serious.
We talk to, when you talk about the future, we were joking off air that I can't tell you the future.
Oh, you can't? Oh, crap. Oh, sorry, folks. I thought we could here.
Yeah, but what we can do is we understand how patterns work. And so we talk about the future in terms of probability and possibility. And see, what I think a lot of people think about forecasting, because from the television side of things, you kind of have to play in this world. This is the temperature, this is the thunderstorm percentage chance, and that's it. That's like trying to hit a home run.
Yeah.
And for every home run you hit, you strike out 2 or 3 more times, or at least it's perceived that way, right? What we're trying to do is risk assessment. So that means that if you're a decision maker, you don't want to know just the probable outcome, because I don't know, and you don't know.
Right.
You need to know what the possible outcomes are, and you need to know how those things are changing. Ultimately, you're going to pull the trigger based on the confidence you feel about the probability in the future. Right. So for us, we're trying to help people understand you got to have both to make an informed and actual educated decision. This goes for you too at home, if you're thinking about, do I go out on the picnic or do we go out on the boat? You have to be thinking about the risk. This is going to be a bad day if you're out on the boat and the winds are chopping at 30 knots and you've got a 3-foot wave. It's not going to be fun for anybody.
It's sort of a reputation thing in some cases.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because that's how I actually talk about what is our job. Our job is ultimately to help businesses protect their brand. Because We Energies, they want to be known as the company that keeps the lights on. It's not Motel 6.
Right.
If Motel 6 doesn't have We Energies working for them, Motel 6 doesn't have the lights on.
Right.
With the exception of a few flashlights or something. But but that's what they want. And so part of what we're trying to do is there. You want me to show you a couple of examples of how this works?
Let's take a peek.
So we'll kind of geek you out. This is our current forecast area. We have a large part of Iowa, almost all of Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And then the adjacent kind of surrounding areas. These are the partners that we mentioned before that we've got. So it's a pretty diverse group from snow plowing to festivals to Lake Express to universities and the brewers.
Real quick, so I know at one point We Energies was ranked one of the best at keeping the lights on. Does that mean that you guys are the best at keeping
helping
the weather?
Keep the light?
I mean, is that like, can you take any credit for that?
It's
okay, this is ridiculous.
It's a partnership.
Yeah, okay, because of course, like if they're keeping the lights on, that would mean they were getting some good data.
Yeah,
and that doesn't mean taking anything away from them, but
no.
Okay, so that's cool.
And
so here you are actually making an impact.
Yeah, if you talk to those guys, they'll tell you, yes, I mean, they call us when the weather is difficult. They're calling me. They're calling our staff. Saying, what do you think? Dwayne Miller and Dave Magna are kind of helping run that part of things, and they'll call and just say, what's your gut? I've seen what you said. I understand the probability possible. Now tell me what's your gut. And it's a huge position for a young.
So that's why you were one of the world's leading weather experts, right there. That's it.
Okay.
A huge responsibility, yes.
Yes.
But you carry it on your shoulders.
But yeah, so my job, my job is to make sure that this thing keeps on moving.
You're blushing,
forward.
Mike.
It's just a red light, that's all.
Gosh. Oh my goodness.
But that's our job, is to help them be successful. And so I'll take you through that.
So back, sorry, I got us off track a little bit.
So we'll kind of go, this goes back a couple years ago in the Fox Valley service area, so the Appleton area of We Energies. We had some thunderstorms that were moving through the area. If you watch the blue on the left-hand side, again, that's the wind part of the map. You're going to see this line, which is kind of a broken line at the moment. You're going to see it kind of go forward, and as it does, you'll see more and more of that blue. And now right there in particular, you're really starting to see the bowing of the squall line. This is the formation of a bow echo squall line. If you guys can come back to me, I'll show you this example. So again, think about an archer's bow. You know, that's kind of what you have. So the arrow shaft is where the winds aloft are coming through. And so now take that and turn it here. So you've got winds that are particularly strong, might be 60, 80 miles an hour, 5,000 feet up or higher. And then they encounter into this environment, they encounter the heavy rain, the thunderstorm. And so basically, if you can, poor man's way of understanding this, you kind of push that high wind right down to the ground. And so that is what winds up driving this bow echo. And so you 60 to 80 mile an hour winds. And
so I was wondering, how does it get so windy? And that's because in some cases some of those higher winds are coming down?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, it's a little colder, so that cold air just sinks and it just comes fast. And a bow echo, once it gets going, has a tendency, it actually rotates on the ends and it forms its own system.
Really?
We've seen bow echoes. One of the ones when I worked for a company called Weather Eye in the Twin Cities, and there was a tornado outbreak in South Dakota. I forget which little town it wiped out. It was like an F5, couple supercells. Then from that, it developed into a bow echo, and it went from western Minnesota all the way to the East Coast. It came through Wisconsin with 100-mile-an-hour winds, and it stayed between 70 and 90 miles an hour from here all the way out to D.C. Same bow echo. I mean, that's how well together these things can get put together. So we kind of go back here, and so this is what's happening. We go to the next one. It doesn't happen all the time, but occasionally in these squall lines, you start to develop tornadoes. Now, again, in the left-hand side, as you're looking at it, you're going to see a little bit of blue and a little bit of red. That is an area that is actually rotating, and if you can kind of co-locate it with the squall line, the heavier rain precipitation's on the right. As this keeps going on, and we go through it, you're going to see two areas now that are rotating. One's got the triangle by it. The other one you can kind of see those both. So these are both areas that may be possible tornadoes. And at the time, because of the way that they form, they don't usually issue tornado warnings. So there was no tornado warning that was out for this. They had severe thunderstorm warnings. For our operation, you go back to the very first frame, we were nervous that something was going to be possibly exceeding their thresholds, which is lower actually than the weather services. So we put them into watch status. By the time that these storms started approaching Appleton, they were already in alert status, and we were already saying, wherever your guys are, just tell them not to be there. Be someplace safe. You don't want to be out in this one. Because it's coming through.
So safety first, too.
Safety first, absolutely.
These aren't storm chasers like you, probably, right?
No, they're not. So we keep on going through. You'll continue to see these areas of rotation as it goes through. And then on the left-hand side, you see those yellow, where that is. That's just flat-out straight-line winds that are really pounding the area. And so, you know, when you look at it, this was the actual tornado impact from that particular day. It wasn't just a straight line winds.
Wow.
There was the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tornadoes. And the one EF2, you're talking about winds in excess of 100 miles an hour. Did some damage to a church in New London.
Oh, wow.
And these were some of the pictures from that day. It was funny because I had to sing for a wedding, and they had to bring generators into the church because they were afraid that it wasn't going to be up in time.
Wow.
You know, and this is what happens, by
Okay.
the way, when storms happen like this, and why summertime is difficult. They have to go in there, and the tree folks they have to de-energize the line. They have to go and clean everything up,
Oh, wow.
get everything so that you can start putting things back up. And when you have broken poles, one of the images that
wow.
I remember best was there was like 13 pole trucks, pull, and they were putting the lines up, you know, as they were going through this section. The overall total impact on this one was 60,000 customers without power in the Fox Valley. That's not a lot of people. It's not like Milwaukee.
No,
So
no.
they had to get 200 to 300 crews and contractors, Iowa, Michigan, Illinois, and took over a week to restore power. The utility to their north, 70 crews, but more than 100 poles they had to replace.
Oh, wow.
And so
And the weather and the National Weather Service didn't have even a warning?
no,
or,
they had the warnings for
I'm
severe
sure at some
thunderstorm
point.
warning,
Oh,
but they
got it.
didn't have a tornado warning out for that one
So
because
you guys beat the National Weather Service. I like it.
well, we're built to do that from the
Go
standpoint
Milwaukee.
of
I'm just joking.
yeah, we're all
I
friends.
know. I shouldn't even do this. Here I'm like stoking rivalries.
Yeah,
Wait till
yeah,
I
right.
start saying
There's
like,
no rivalry.
so who's better, the TV news people or you guys? See now, that's how you
Somebody's
cause
gonna
problems.
ask that
right.
question.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna go there.
We'll
But sorry.
no, we all are partners in
Right.
this, and the National Weather Service is looking for particular outcomes. Ours for the utilities, their thresholds are
Right.
lower.
You're just saying they wouldn't put out a watch or warning in certain cases because for them, they don't. That's just not their way of. It's too soon, so to speak.
This particular thing, because it was happening in an embedded bow echo squall line, it's not common for those to actually create tornadoes.
Oh, okay. So
But in
was
this
a little
particular case, this was a kind of a special and unique case, and so I think everybody kind of got flipped upside down and said, "Do you think that that's actually hitting?" And
But you guys were able to.
we were able
kinda
to say
see that.
we were
Oh, wow.
concerned that there may be tornadic activity in this, but the bigger point of it all was that, you know, an hour before it hit, they had already had the message that you all need to hunker down, and the day before, they knew that there was going to be a risk for severe weather. So the day before, they could be thinking about where do we strategically place crews. Now, after this went through, one of the other things that happens is, what about restoration? You know, how do I get my people back
Yeah.
up? So think about it. You know, We Energies has southeast service areas from Milwaukee, but they also have this Appleton area. Can we send our crews from Milwaukee to help the people up in Appleton?
Or will something happen down here?
Or will something happen down
wow.
here? So we're helping
This is
them
complicated. It's like
manage
chess.
those pieces. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a chess piece. Now there's another one that's kind of interesting. We talked about brand.
Yeah.
So another one of our clients, and Lake Express has been a longtime partner. Love working with these guys. You know, it's the high-speed ferry. If you haven't ever gone on it, my first time out on it, because we go out about every other year, is to try to experience what they do. It's 6-foot wave heights. They generally start looking to curtail it because there's going to be too much danger for the people. There could be danger to the cargo. The ship's going to be fine.
Yeah, the ship's.
But at the end of the day, if you don't have a good time, you're going to tell
so
other
this
people
is
about
mostly
that.
brand related.
Well, this is brand and safety and
Well, and
gas
safety.
mileage too. When you get six, I mean, these are gas guzzling diesel
Well, I've been out
engines.
there, and this is one of the reasons, folks, why I think we need to stop calling it Lake Michigan, and we need to just start calling it like the Great Lake or Great Lake Michigan, because I was out there sailing one time, and we had 9-foot waves, and we weren't prepared. We didn't call you guys ahead of time. 9-foot waves, and that was about as crazy as I've ever seen it, and I feel like people don't realize that, and it's great that obviously Lake Express being out on the water all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are fully aware of the danger of that, but you guys, okay, so you guys are doing that stuff too.
Yeah, and
Nice.
you have to think about the forecast from that standpoint. So, you know, from Lake Express's, my experience was this. So, if you're on there, like, you start feeling like that, right?
Yeah.
About 3-foot wave height, that's kind of me. And then all of a
gosh.
sudden you realize that it's 2.5 hours across and you can't get
yeah,
off.
That's true.
You know, that winds up
Oh my
being,
gosh.
people. So
Mike, I love this.
the
I love your
reality
PowerPoint.
it is an awesome experience. It's
Yeah.
an awesome trip. But at some point, the lake will be something that is not it's not going to help them. It'll be more problem than it's worth. And so, but they operate like an airlines. You don't want to cancel
because
unless
then
you
have the return trips also canceled.
Because you've got, it affects people's plans. But if it's not going to be safe, if people aren't going to be able to have some enjoyment, you have to weigh when is it necessary to do that. And since that's a major decision, they're talking with us. And if you've been on it, if you get to the Muskegon side and you see what they have to maneuver in and how they have to move that big old ship.
Yeah.
Things like wind direction and fog, visibility, thunderstorms that are coming in when they're trying to dock, all of those things matter. And so they're trying to get a look out ahead so that they can try to, if they are going to every once in a while cancel because they just have to, they want to give people enough time that they can change their plans. So,
I see.
It's safety, and it's basically brand management is trying to help them.
I got a quick question on this wave thing. I mean, I know waves in some cases in the ocean can be related to the moon. Obviously, on the Great Lake, it's a little bit more complicated than that. How are those? I mean, how are we getting 9-foot waves on the Great Lake?
So the way to think about waves, and I'll go back to this image of Lake Michigan if I can. So if it's a east-west wind, there's not as much water, open water. If it's north-south, there's far more open water.
Okay.
And so if you have, if you have that significant length of water that is impacted by the wind, that's how you're going to get your greater wave heights. So for example, an east-west wind, I think the best wave height I've seen is about 12, 13 feet.
Oh, wow.
It was... Well, there's another thing about Michigan, too, that you have to know about stability.
Okay.
If the air is cold and the water is warm, you're going to have waves.
Oh.
If the air is warm and the water is cold, you could have wind and you won't have as much wave action.
Really?
It has to do with...
See, folks, we're learning here. We're not just entertainment.
See the face on that one. It's like...
Really? I mean, granted, I do a lot of sailing and I love it, but what the heck?
So think about it this way. Over land... sun heats up the ground and you get rising air because hot air rises, right?
Yep.
So when you get that rising motion, what happens is as wind is traveling through that, you get it coming up and then you get it crashing down. That's where wind and wind gusts come from. That's what we call mixing.
Okay.
So if you have a lot of wind above us and you've got air coming up, you're going to mix that down to the surface.
Yeah.
Okay. Now when it's go to this, like last night, we had wind, and you'll notice it today because it's a bit windy today. If you go outside later on this evening, more than likely you're going to see those gustier winds just diminish because we're losing the daytime heating and now we're radiating off some of that heat, but the winds are picking up off the ground. It's becoming more stable because now it's cooler here than it is aloft. Now you take it out over the lake, okay?
Okay.
So in the spring, Lake Michigan is really, really cold. It's why Milwaukee doesn't warm up.
Right.
So
well, we warm up in our hearts.
In our hearts.
Just not
but
on
even
the
after a while, even that's like, I think
I don't even like to swim in the Great Lake until like August because it's...
On the Michigan side. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just so cold.
It's cold. So in the spring, but think about it, in the spring, what you have is a very stable, you don't have any rising motion. So it can be really, really windy over the land. But as soon as it gets to that, to the lake, there's almost like a cold dome. You can kind of see it as almost a wind just rising up and over. So it really diminishes the impact of those strong winds that we would feel over the land.
And here I always pictured that it would be the cold water that would have more waves. Is that what you're not saying?
That's what I'm not saying.
Right. And I just want to make sure that because that seems so different because you're always like, oh, it's cold and windy and waves, but that's not necessarily the case.
That's not, no.
Okay.
So now we're going into September and October become the more difficult time of year because now you're getting that colder air from Canada. Except that so the air temperature might be 50 degrees, but the lake surface temperature is 65. So guess what? The lake is now giving off rising motion. The lake is creating the place where it's mixed. Over land, it's calm. We don't have anything going on, but over the lake, it gets going.
And that's what I experienced when we were sailing. Yeah. It was in late summer. So okay. Wow. Yeah. All right. So that's that. All right. Cool.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask below. And I don't know, I guess I've gotten so much information here. I don't know. You guys have any questions there in the back?
Well, Corey is a a fellow UWM student. He's not in the meteorology program, but he's wondering if he can get in on some of this because he thinks it sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, we get asked that one. I had another young person ask me from a couple of colleges down in Illinois, you know, hey, I'm done with my undergraduate degree. Can I work by you guys? And we're like, no, it's just for students who are declared majors and in the program, and that's part of it because it is a competitive thing. But yeah, we do learn a lot, and you're applying a lot, and like I said, the skill setting that you're getting out of it. We always talk about what's the win. You know, I mean, you have to ask that as what we're doing here. You know, what's the win for Milwaukee Live, and what's the win for Innovative Weather? At the end of our time, with the end of a student's time with us, we ask them to write a letter to the dean. And I want you to, in your own words, to be able to say to the dean, why did this matter? How did this matter for you personally and professionally? And just talk a little bit about it, what it meant. And so when that goes out, we collect those, and we will share those with the people who are in LNS, just reminding them this is what your investment is allowing to happen. But then we'll also share that with our partners, because we don't look at them as clients. They all know this story. How do I give a 21-year-old kid the keys to the car, so to speak, and let him tell me how to make a $10,000 or a $50,000 decision? You know, that's crazy. But if you understand what we're doing, if you understand the system that we've put in place, and the partnership that exists, not a data-client relationship, but a partnership, then we share these with them to remind them that when you give your your monthly fee to us, we don't look at it that way. You're actually making an investment in these stories.
Yeah, the other stories.
All the other stories, because when they sit down when they sit down with National Weather Service or a private company or a college or something like that, they're going to say, tell us a story about why we should have you a part of this, and how are you qualified to help us in our mission. And these kids have some fantastic stories, which is part of the reason why we would love to let people know, if you're pursuing the field of meteorology, yes, you can work in this field. It actually branches out beautifully into a lot of other areas as well. But when it comes right down to it, we've got one of the best kept secrets in the country when it comes to this program. And
yeah, Milwaukee,
you know.
Yeah, this is great. I'm so glad we could have you on. One last thing, real quick. You were talking about meteorology. I know we were talking off the air about meteorologists and gamblers.
Oh.
You remember what that was?
Yeah.
I mean, this is fascinating, folks.
Yeah, so to Dr. Rober, he's actually just written a book, and I forget the name of the title. I'll send it to you. We'll put it out on there, or we'll have another conversation.
Yeah, we'll comment. Yeah, we're going to, I think we're going to be having Mike more on. If you guys would like to see Mike and whether maybe even some of the students at some point on, just make sure to shoot us a comment so that we know you guys are liking this. But yes, anyway.
Yeah. So Paul got done writing a book that he's been working on with a number of co-authors for the last 10 years. And one of the things that he said to me not long ago was that when it comes to appropriately thinking about the future, so forecasting the future, because we all do this. You do it, I do it, we're forecasting budgets.
Or whatever.
But when you look at doctors and economists and the average Joe and administrators and stuff like that, the people who rise to the top in terms of the ability to forecast best are meteorologists and professional gamblers.
See, so we need to hire meteorologists to help us forecast when the viewers want to watch Milwaukee Live shows, potentially, or gamblers. Yeah, so
yeah,
professional gamblers, not just random.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And the idea on this, though, is that what happens is we most of the time, for most people, we don't forecast, we wishcast.
Right.
I want to see a particular
Not you
outcome.
Guys, you're saying humans
humans is and we have to watch out for it too. I mean,
right.
we do. It's like if you're really geeked out about thunderstorms and hey, there's a chance for thunderstorms, you might forecast a better chance for thunderstorms than is really there because you want to see thunderstorms.
Because you want it, right?
And so that's the way that most people do. They have wish casting. Meteorologists have been trained to not be offended by new data and are not afraid to take in that new data to reevaluate the probability and possible outcomes. A lot of people are not good at that. And I don't know how to capitalize on this, but I think that it is a unique trait then to meteorologists that would be extremely beneficial for places like administration and management.
Or like Amazon, or predicting where to, obviously not just the weather, but just using using your brain in a full extent, not wish casting or
right. To be able to come in,
and
I think that there's a potential role for consulting in a new way, because you have the capacity to think about future predictions differently. So
yeah,
that's where they came.
I love it.
Meteorologists and professional gamblers.
Cool. All right. Well, everyone, we're going to let you guys go. Feel free to comment below. Thanks for watching. Make sure if you like what we're doing here in Milwaukee Live, let us know by commenting, sharing, clicking that like button. And yeah, we're going to do some more cool stuff. Weather is definitely one of them. It's important. And is, yeah.
InnovativeWeather.com. That's where you can learn more about the program. If you want to share it, our forecasts are there.
We go all night, yeah. We got that fight, yeah.
And yeah, make sure to give lots of love. So, all right, guys, well, you have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you guys later.
We go all night, yeah. We got that fight, yeah. Our future look nice, yeah. Our future look bright, yeah. Our future look nice, yeah.